Hello everybody. Today we have a video that's pretty special to me, at least. The nerd on me is very excited because the topic is Pro Power on Board. I've been wanting to talk about this since even before we got the truck, and I had several questions, especially surrounding this interior outlet. Coming from a 21 Super Duty with the 400 watt inverter, we always use the inside outlet for several things, right? Charging different things and so on. And a lot of the times we do it while driving. And I wanted to see, right? One of the questions that I had that wasn't really answered anywhere, not even in the manual, is if this outlet was active when you're using when you're not using Pro Power on Board and when you're driving. And what prompted this also was the fact that somebody yesterday had asked if when you have Pro Power on Board, or when you add the option on the ordering, it says it removes the option for this outlet, right? The regular outlet without Pro Power on Board, it's less power on this, right? It's less than 20 amps. This one is labeled as 20 amps. I have not tested this. This video is not meant to test the outlets to capacity. It's just to kind of show the feature around and kind of explain some of the things that we get with Pro Power on Board, which is actually, rather cool, right? Whenever you need tools and things like that moving around. Now, just to kind of explain really quick how Pro Power on Board is enabled, and to show that so far I have not enabled it on here. We go to features, Pro Power on Board, and the truck right now, Pro Power on Board is on, so I'm going to turn it off, and then we can actually put the truck into generator mode, which will turn on the outlets on the back. So right now we're up to 400 watts. If I put the truck in generator mode, just as an example, one of the things that happens is the RPM is kicked up by about 200 and something. I think idle RPM on this truck is about 600 RPM. It probably kicks it up to about 950, something like that, if I look at the tag over there. And so it kind of, kicks up the RPM a little bit, and you notice that the truck turns also blue on the back. When I turn it off, the back turns black, so that means the back is not enabled, but the interior outlet is also enabled. So one of the things I want to do is I want to test this out as well, right? So this is normal operating mode. We get 400 watts, which is what you get with the basic Super Duty when you don't have Pro Power on Board. So one of the things I want to do is I want to turn this off, and now everything goes to off. So I have my handy dandy DeWalt charger, DeWalt battery charger here. Where do I put this so I'm not gonna mess things up over here? Let's just put it on the floor, and excuse the mess and the kind of the fiddling around. I don't have an expensive production. I am not monetized on YouTube or anything, so obviously I'm just doing this for the fun of it and kind of to answer some of the questions that I did have at the time I was gonna buy the truck and didn't know these things would work. So okay, right now this battery is seated properly. Yep, it's seated properly, and it's not charging. So if I go back and turn on Pro Power on Board here, I want to see, let's see what happens. Okay, so now that started charging. So that started charging, and then the light turns yellow. So this light turns on yellow when the outlet is enabled. Duh, right? That's a very straightforward thing that we do know happens. So by default, all we get is 400 watts and just the inside outlet in the cab turned on. Okay, so now as you can see, we're drawing less than 200 watts, which is kind of cool to have an indicator. And if I disconnect this, it should go back to 0, hopefully. Yep. All right, so now let's head out to the back, and I want to leave this disabled for now, just to kind of show things out in the back and see what happens over there. I have not tested a lot of this, so bear with me here. I have brought several things that I would think are probably useful. One of them is a power tool. Obviously, we could use a drill or a saw, but a sander will do the trick, I think. Compressor, quite useful, I think. I use, we RV a lot, and compressor is kind of useful to carry around just in case you need to inflate tires or you need to blow things and stuff like that, right? So compressor is a very useful tool for this. I think it, very applicable. And they're all 110 tools. and also a vacuum cleaner, which I have already found myself using to kind of clean up things whenever I installed the tonneau cover and I had to make holes on the back. So let's test things out and let's look and see how things go over here. So right now, when I come to the back here, there's an indicator light here, but right now it's off, right? Because we left the truck in just in on mode. It's not in generator mode, and the RPM is kind of low. I don't know if you can hear that. But let's try a couple things out. Let's plug in the vacuum cleaner first. And things are gonna get noisy here for a minute, so bear with me. Now, like I said, I'm just alone here doing this by myself, so bear with me, kind of fiddling with things here as we go. So right now, vacuum cleaner is off. I'm gonna turn it on. Not working. Good deal. And then also one of the things that I want to show is consumption as well as we go through this. So that is off. That is off here. So now if I go here, which is actually quite cool as well, is the fact that I can turn this on back here. So I'll switch on. The vacuum cleaner goes on. And so now the vacuum cleaner is working. That's pretty cool. And also one thing that happened is, I don't know if you can hear that. Let's see. If we get closer to the exhaust, is the RPM kind of kicked up a little bit, which is kind of fun. All right. So one of the things I want to do is I want to turn this back on, and we could technically show this using the phone as well. The phone app is quite useful. It actually tells you the status of ProPower on board. But it doesn't tell you. I can't show you right now because I'm using my phone to record. Okay. So right now, we're consuming 120 watts, 810, 120 with just a vacuum cleaner. And that happens to be one of these cheap 5 horsepower or 5 gallon 4 horsepower vacuum cleaners, right, from Craftsman. So, you know, nothing crazy here. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this compressor is a Pancake DeWalt compressor. I think it's about 10 amps. Which should kick us up a little bit to, you know, about 1,000 to 1,100 amps. So we're gonna plug this guy in, and I'm not gonna stress this, right? This is my truck. I'm not gonna stress test it. I will let that to the pros that can afford to break their trucks. So I'm not gonna stress test the outlets, but I just want to test one thing at a time. So that's why I'm disconnecting the vacuum cleaner. And now I turn this guy on. That guy got quite noisy back there. Apologize about that. But just, you know, do a couple things. So yeah, that kicked us up to about 1,000. So that's 10 amps on that compressor. And that's actually kind of cool that we can just draw that from one outlet. Let's turn that off for a minute. And then let's plug this guy on. And that's the sander. And I'm gonna unplug this guy just to avoid accidental. Okay, so now we just do the sander next. Let's see. This one unfortunately, make sure that the power cable is not caught on anything. That's full power on that sander. And that belt needs adjustment. But conclusion, I can sand with this. So that's kind of cool. So now let's hear the RPM for a minute. A little high, so I'm gonna actually turn this off right here. The truck just kicked the RPM way down. So let's go back inside the cab and kind of look at things. And excuse me for my finger. Kind of going in the camera there. I don't want to re-record this, so we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, idle RPM of the truck is about, I don't know, I would say 500, 550 RPM, something like that. And when we put it in generator mode, it kicks it up to like 900. The option itself adds a 180 amp alternator, I believe it is, on the gas engines. It kicks it up way higher with the Power Stroke, and way bigger alternator. I think dual alternator option also. This truck does have the dual AGM batteries up front. That is part of the camper package, or camper snowplow prep package. And also underneath the seat, which I can't show you because there are car seats back there, it has, you know, they're actually covered. It has two additional AGM or lithium batteries, I believe it is. Don't quote me on this. Keep me honest down in the comments. That will support the Pro Power on board, and the reason for that is obviously the power delivery from the truck straight to the inverter. It's probably not very consistent. That's why that's always needed, right? You need to smooth that charge out so that you don't damage your electronics and you don't damage the truck in the process and the alternator and so forth. So it has 2 additional batteries. The other thing that it's unfortunate that I didn't get those car seats out, because one question that I did also have while when I was going to buy the truck was, are those 2 batteries underneath the seat, under the seat, right, under seat storage? Is that going to take up the whole under seat storage? And the answer is no, it won't. You actually have a slightly skinnier, if you will, under seat storage, but it does have under seat storage there on the full length of the truck, so that is not a concern. The batteries are tucked up back there by where the jack of the truck is at and all that stuff, and that's the same, right? The same spot where the jack has been for all these years, right? Since, I don't know, about 2019, since this truck got redesigned, the 2018, 2019, where the new cab was put on. Okay, I think that answers all the questions that I had. If there's any others, please leave them on the comment below, and I try to answer them and I try to test them. I think this is something that was pretty cool to kind of play around with. I think it's a useful tool. Another thing that I do want to try with it would be to actually have a pressure washer back there, like an electric pressure washer. I know some people are gonna say it's like, yo, you can get a gas pressure washer, and that's fine. I don't own one. I feel like I have enough combustion engines to maintain around. 2 lawnmowers, 2 weed eaters, chainsaw, backpack blower. I don't need more combustion engines. So my option, or my selection for a pressure washer is actually an electronic one, or electric. So I think an electric power washer back there, and if you need to be remote, you can probably put a water tote in the back, or some sort of 50-gallon bucket or something like, I don't know, something like that, to kind of feed that power washer and do things like that when you're off, doing things in the back of the out in the land when you don't have water hookup and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this addresses a lot of the questions that people have regarding Pro Power on board. It certainly does answer that question of, we still have an outlet inside the truck. It still provides you 400 watt when you drive, all the time when you're driving. I have not tested whether you can have Pro Power on board while driving. I think the answer is no, but that's another thing to test around. If you know the answer to that, please post it down in the comments below. It's probably in the manual. That one's probably in the manual somewhere. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and feel free to leave a comment below and like the video. Thank you.